Good evening. It is Monday, July 15th, 2024. Welcome to episode 71 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And tonight is kind of an impromptu live stream. I was not intending on doing a live stream this week. Had a lot of things going on around here, plus with all of the current events and things that were happening surrounding both the convention as well as the president almost being killed. Just decided to maybe take a back seat to that and not really talk much about it and, kind of take this week off. But, after having given it a bit more consideration, I thought probably one of the best things to do would have been to come on here. So in light of current events, we are here and wanting to have a conversation with anybody that may want to join us in the live stream tonight. And it's an interesting thing. What I had hoped to be able to do on this channel would be to, particularly what I'm referring to, the live streams that we do here is, a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of education, and sharing ideas and letting the thoughts flow freely. And, that's become more of a focus of mine. It's become more of something that I've wanted to do and wanted to share because I realize the importance of not stifling your thoughts and stifling free speech. And that's what I want to be able to continue to do on this channel. And so I wanted to come on tonight and just share some of those thoughts. And we'll talk a little bit about what happened with President Trump. But that's certainly not going to be our focus, hopefully, for this evening. But if anybody, again, wants to sound off on that, we are more than welcome to entertain any of your thoughts. So as lively as you want to be in the chat, we'll talk about anything that you want to talk about. But how are you doing this evening, Rebecca?
I am good. I'm happy that I got a little more rest since we were away this weekend, and our dog decided not to travel extremely well. So, I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. So it's nice to be home.
Right. Yeah. Good evening, Scanes. And how are you this evening, Lucy, from my crooked little homestead? Haven't seen you in a while, so it's always good to see friends in the chat. And welcome this evening. And
yes, welcome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Scanes. We are actually today was much improved as far as how hot it's been. Last week was extremely hot. And I think we had a day that was like 120. And there was multiple days in a row that was over 115. And so anything under 110 starts to feel pretty nice. And today, I don't know what the high temperature got, but it was probably 105 or less. And it felt like a day off. It was really nice. It's supposed to be a little bit cooler tomorrow, but then the heat comes back. So, it's amazing when you get acclimated to, 110 plus, how nice it feels when it's 100 degrees. You're like, oh, this feels great out here. Right.
Didn't you hear that this weekend? Somebody complaining it was like 89.
Oh, yeah.
And it being hot.
Right. Well, there's people from all over. I mean, there's people that come from the coast and they're just not used to the heat like we get here. Thanks, Lucy. I appreciate that. She says she's been following all the videos and they are so full of knowledge. And I really do appreciate that. That is one of the true rewards that I get on this channel. It's not really about, any of the sales from merch or any of the things that we may do otherwise. That's just a nice little bonus. But what really, it is nice is to hear things from people. When I get emails from people that says, hey man, I did something that I was inspired to do based on listening to what, you had to say. That's where the true reward comes in. And so I do appreciate comments like that. And so, I read all of my comments. I respond to all of my comments. I respond to all of my emails because I think that if people are going to take time out of what they are doing to respond to me, it's up to me to do that in kind. And so again, I thank you for that. But I think when I first started doing this, there was a little bit more of a focus upon, maybe wanting to grow the channel, maybe wanting to, get more monetized or whatever. And I have to be honest, I don't really care about that as much. I think upon reevaluation of all of this and everything that I've seen go on in the last year and a half, and, even in light of current events, right, that has an impact on the way that I feel regarding moving forward with this channel. And I think that it's so important to be honest and not censor yourself. That's what they want us to do. For those of you who are not content creators and may be listening to this, one of the things that when you upload a YouTube video, you have to go through a litany of different things where it asks you, oh, does it violate this? Does it violate that? Does it violate this? Does it violate that? Because they have all these community guidelines. And it's something that's very subjective, and it's interpreted based on what somebody wants to apply to it. And I don't think anything that I'm putting out there is offensive or off limits. And so I will let them be the ones that censor me. I'm not going to self-censor myself, because I believe when you do that, when you start doing their work for them, then they are winning. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of mention tonight is that, with what happened with Trump, I know that people have said, hey, if in fact that had happened, if in fact they had killed him, then we would more than likely, this country could erupt into some kind of a disturbance like a civil war. And that very may well be the case. That could actually happen. And be that as it may, it hasn't happened, but it could happen. But one thing that has happened, and this is just my interpretation of it, is that we are at war. We've been at war for years, for decades. And it's a cultural war, because they are constantly attacking the values of people within this country. Whether you're somebody who's religious or whether you're somebody who holds specific values of any kind, they are always and constantly under assault by both the right and the left. Obviously, one side pushes a little harder than the other, but big government knows no bounds, and it's going to continue to take more of the rights of the American people away. And so part of the discussion tonight that I wanted to start with is just, from the understanding that I think that we all are born with only one thing really that is innate within all of us, and they can never take away, and that's our thoughts. I'm having a
terrible time.
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'll figure it out.
Okay. Keep that away from the microphone so it doesn't feed back.
All right.
So having thoughts of your own is something that nobody can ever take away. That's something that you own. Now, freedom of speech, that again is something that we've been told in this country, United States, that we have a right to. And yes, we do have a right to that. We have a right to say what we want to say openly. And I'm going to continue to exercise that as much as I possibly can on this particular channel, despite them not wanting people to talk about certain things. I don't think that that's a direction that I want to go. I'm not going to feel good about censoring myself. So I'm going to let my thoughts fly freely on this channel. And if anybody else wants to sound off, then we'll discuss it. But understand, along with that freedom of speech comes repercussion from what you say. So I could say something here that would get me taken off of this platform. That's fine. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not doing this because it's going to make or break who I am. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to speak freely, and I'm going to go to bed at night, and I'm going to sleep well.
You don't sleep well.
That's true. I don't sleep well. But I'm gonna not lose sleep over the fact that I've held my tongue. So what you're going to hear from me is the honest and unvarnished truth as far as I see it. And really what I would love is for somebody to come on this platform that disagrees with me. And so we can have an honest, an open dialogue, because maybe my mind would be changed if somebody came on here and said, you know what, man, you're all washed up. you haven't seen it in this light. And so I would love to have that person come on and we can have a discussion. I think that would be great, because I think that's one of the things that in the United States we are sorely lacking in a lot of respects, is open and honest dialogue between people that we disagree with. We get in these echo chambers and we start talking to one another and we agree with one another, and that's fine to a point. But when you do that, all you're ever hearing is yourself talking and reconfirming your own biases, and that's just, I think that's an unfortunate thing. And so I think that we should not hold our tongue. I understand why some people do it on this platform and others. I understand why people decide, hey, I'm not going to say that because it's going to affect my channel. It's going to affect monetization. It's going to affect this, because maybe they have a different perspective. I don't share that perspective. And so, like I said, I wanted to be able to just kind of get that out there and talk about some things openly and honestly. And yeah. What do you think about that, Rebecca?
I think you're on one.
No, I've got a lot on my mind, and I think that a lot of people have a lot on their minds. And I think it's good to talk about these things, because, if Trump had been killed, where would we be tonight? Would you be prepared? I know most people think they are prepared, but I know that a lot of people don't know what it's going to look like when this country falls apart. Because up to this point, it's been all coming from one side. The hate, the vitriol, the violence has all come from one side. It's the left. The right has been sitting on their hands for a long time. And all credit to the people who have shown restraint. But the other side hasn't been showing restraint, and they're pushing and they're prodding and they're trying to get a response. And when that happens, the wheels are going to come off, because I think people are going to just be fed up with it. We're tired. We've been given this promise that, oh, hey, you can go to the ballot box and make a change. Does anybody really think that their vote is being counted correctly? Does anybody think? In fact, I'll challenge you this. I'll bet you there's not a person listening to this that would bet their life on the fact that the system doesn't have shenanigans and corruption and malfeasance going on in every election, and it has been that way for decades. Nobody really likes to talk about it. You know why? Because when you acknowledge the fact that that's the case, you lose faith in the system. But that's where a lot of people are. They've lost faith in the system. When you start to question the things that you knew to be true, that, oh, I go to the ballot box and I get to vote my candidate every 2 or 4 years, and that vote matters. And then when things happen like they happened in the last election, it makes you call into question the legitimacy of the entire process. And so I know a lot of people are holding faith that things are going to be different this time. I don't know if I share that faith. I would love to think that I do, because I know that one candidate over the others winning, I know that if one candidate, Donald Trump, were to be elected, things would be a much different outcome on how things are going in this country. And I think a lot of people want that. But you know what? A lot of people wanted that last time. But what was the outcome of that? He was winning, and then people went to sleep. And guess what happened when you woke up? You remember, right?
Yeah.
And so anybody that spoke out against that, myself included, I was given a warning when I talked about that the last time. But I don't care. Give me a strike. I don't care. Take me off this platform. I don't care. But you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to silence me. That's what you're not going to do. The only way you're going to do that is take me off this platform or whatever, but you're still not going to silence me. So I just think that things like that need to be acknowledged. And that's truly the way that I feel about it. Because one of the things that I have available to me is my mouth, my thoughts. and I can convey those. And I think the more people that are willing to actually say what they know to be true, to speak the truth to what you see and go with your gut instinct, the more people that are willing to do that, the less likely they're going to be able to do the things that they're doing right now. People are waking up, but what's it going to take for there to actually be some action? I was up in Oregon. We were both up in Oregon this past weekend. And I had just run a 50-kilometer race. I ran it in 6 hours and 24 minutes, which was 25 minutes slower than I ran it 13 years ago. So would have liked to have gone under 6 hours. Would have liked to have been sub 6. But you know what? I'm an old man, and I'm not as fast as I used to be. But I feel good about the race. I spread the peanut butter evenly on the bread, right? I passed about 40 people in the last 15 miles. I was crushing it at the end, finished strong, completely happy with my race. Came back, took a bath, got in the motorhome, took a shower. Rebecca took a shower, and we were both laying on the bed. And she was asleep because, as she had mentioned earlier, the dog was keeping her up all night because she was tending to our restless dog who was not being very cooperative. And so thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Well, and while he was running, I was walking the dog in hopes to wear her out so that she would sleep better the following night. Sort of worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so I'm laying there on the bed, right? And I decide, after kind of coming out of a little nap, I look at my phone and I see where it says that the president had been shot. The first thing I'm thinking, what? And then my normal reaction when I see things on TikTok that are kind of like make me question it, I'll run to other sources so I can confirm whether or not this is true or not. And I started looking around, and sure enough, all these different news agencies and things were saying the same thing. And so it was kind of a shocking thing. And it really hadn't sunk in as to what had happened. And, I showed Rebecca, and she was like kind of in disbelief. And, over the last couple of days, we've been able to take in a lot of the punditry. And again, I didn't really want to talk about this specifically tonight, but it just kind of goes to show how things have accelerated. This isn't anything that nobody didn't see coming. She's been saying it since he was elected the first time in 2015 or 16 or whatever it was. It's not a shock for a lot of people.
It's not for me. I was surprised that they didn't do it earlier.
Yeah, but I suppose that's true. But you said that about Obama too. You kept saying, "Oh, they're gonna kill him or whatever." But the difference between Obama and Trump is Trump doesn't play, on the inside. He's an insider, and he's playing along with the deep state. And I never would have thought this would have been something that my government would be involved in or have a hand in doing. But the first inclination that I got once I got confirmation that this had happened is I was thinking, this shit don't seem right. And I'm not just saying that because am distrustful. I'm saying that, for one, when I don't know what year it was when George Bush was president, and I happened to be on a fire called the Cedar Fire. This was in Southern California. It was, at the time, it became the largest and most destructive fire in California's history of wildfires. Killed a ton of people, just decimated entire communities. And I saw that fire when it was 10 acres in size. I happened to be down there on a strike team, and I got dispatched. We were damn near at the Mexican border, and we got dispatched into this. And I saw the fire just sitting there on this little knoll. And they said, "Don't do anything. We can't have you guys going down in there. The winds are going to surface. The Santanas are going to blow. And we don't want to put crews down in there to do anything about it." And it was a damn good call that they didn't do that. So I bedded my crews down, and I went to sleep. And about I don't know, 1:32 in the morning, knocking on my window, get up. And it was like a blowtorch as soon as I rolled the window down to talk to this guy. Winds were howling 70 miles an hour, and it was hot and dry, and the fire had taken off. Nonetheless, anyhow, that's a kind of a diversion from what I was going toward. But George Bush wound up coming down there to do his political, thing, right? He's got to come and assess and do FEMA and so that they can get federal funds and everything. Well, it was this big dog and pony show. And we had been in the base camp for a couple of weeks already at this point. This is our normal course of daily routine, going in and out of base camp and getting our resupply and doing all the things we need to do. Well, they basically said, hey, the president's coming. We're locking down this entire thing. And so the place was closed down the night before. The teams of Secret Service came in. They assessed the area. They did everything that they did. The next day, we had to come in and go through these magnetometers, right? We got to get wanded and go through this booth thing or whatever. And this is where our place of work is. They wanted to make sure that we were not somebody who's going to pose a threat to the president. Completely appropriate, I guess, right? Along with that, on every goddamn building in any proximity, there was a dude with a rifle. There was a sniper. And so I'm thinking, how are they going to have Trump with not dudes on every building? Especially, that's the place where, if they're going to take somebody out, right, you're going to shoot them from an elevated position, and they didn't cover that. And so it was, for me, it was just like kind of a red flag right off the bat. Like, there's something not right about this. And I don't know. There could obviously be, this dude could be a lone gunman, right? As they've probably tried to push that out already. I think I've heard somebody say, oh, he was a lone wolf. Really? Fucking 20 years old, lone wolf? Looks like a nerd, into guns. But, maybe that's the case. But given the history of our government and what they've done to people who don't play with the government, people like JFK, people like Martin Luther King, people like Bobby Kennedy, given the history of Project Artichoke, where they used mind-altering substances in order to coerce subjects into performing an assassination. Look it up, 1951, Project Artichoke. I never knew that shit, but I know it now. And so what does that make me think when they have a president that doesn't play ball, who's come as much as saying, hey, drain the swamp? Why do you think he's been targeted? Why do you think they call him a racist? Why do you think that they've tried to say he's a Russian spy? Why do you think that they've tried to say all of these things about that guy? Is it because it's true, or because they're full of shit and they're trying to cover their tracks? Why do you think they're calling you a racist? Why do you think that they're saying those things about people who are on the right? It's because they're pointing the finger at themselves. The people who have been responsible for the violence doesn't come from the right. Remember the Tea Party? I do. It's a bunch of grandmas. There's a bunch of people just waving flags and shit. And they demonized him. That was the start of Trump right there, the Tea Party, if you recall. That was people pissed off about Obama and all the things that were going on there. And the Tea Party rose.
Bags.
Why do you think that happened? So I don't know. I'm just sounding off, guys, because I'm seeing things. You know what? And I assume that there's other people who are seeing things. But what I don't want to see is people going back to the way of thinking, hey, things are normal, because they're not. We were super close to having shit jump off like a quarter inch. And then again, we all think we're prepared until this fucking country falls apart. And that's exactly what probably would have happened if the leading candidate for president, a person who's been targeted relentlessly throughout this entire process by one political party, if he would have been taken out, what do you think the sentiment would be in this country right now? It would be much different than it is tonight. Wouldn't have been happiness at the RNC right now, would it? And so what I hope my message is from saying all this is continue to get prepped. Continue to work on making yourself better every day, because that's what we are going to need. Continue to build your relationships. Continue to build your networks. Because if you don't, we were that close, right? Think about that. That's a scary thought. And I'm a little bit pissed that they didn't do a better job of protecting probably one of the most controversial figures in like recent world history. He's loved by more and he's hated by more. He's very polarizing. They know the threat that he's facing. I hope now he knows the threat. And that's something we've talked about a lot, her and I, about him putting himself out there. But he's a people person. He's going to continue to do that. He's doing that for this country. He's doing that for the people of this country.
Well, what I was going to say as far as the shooter is that there were plenty of spectators that were there that were pointing it out, yet they were not responding to it.
Yeah. What up, Spags? Good to see you, brother.
And that's a little bit troubling too, because it's not like they were saying, "Oh no, that's one of us. We're there to protect the president." That they didn't say that. They didn't say anything. They didn't do anything.
Right. I mean, who's to know what the level of confusion is? I'm sure there's going to be a narrative that will come out that's going to cover their tracks as much as possible. You know, there's not going to be anybody that's going to fall on the knife or fall on the sword. They've got their tracks covered. Now, let's just say, here's a conspiracy for you. I'm going to go Alex Jones on your ass. Check this out. So this nerd, 20-year-old nerd, looks very unassuming, but yet he looks like every school shooter you ever saw. And so if in fact he was somebody who was coerced or made to believe he was doing something for a higher power, these people know how to do that. They know how to cover their tracks. Convenient that he was shot 3 seconds after he rang shots out, right? Like they didn't see him already. Of course, they had their weapon trained on him. It wasn't like they looked around like, where did that come from? No, they knew where he was at. They let him take the shot because 3 seconds later, he was dead. You know what that does? That covers their tracks. He'll never talk. He'll never say what he needs to say. But yet, if he is somebody who has been entertained to do something like this by an agency or two, don't you think that they've done their homework? Everything is going to be squeaky clean on their end because the narrative's already fucking written. It's not going to be like anything comes back to them. This will be another one of those files that would be sealed for 60 or more years, right? Classified documents that have yet to be released from the last guy who was shot and killed in the head. So it's a very interesting thing that we've watched transpire. And it causes a lot of questions in my mind. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist, or maybe I've just been paying attention to what I've seen over the course of a number of years with the lies from the media, with the lies from the politicians, with the corruption at the highest level. And so when a guy comes along like Donald Trump, who's a voice for the deplorables, the people that go out there and work 40 hours a week to put food on their table, but now they can't afford it because of mismanagement of the government, money that's being sent around the world for bullshit projects when we've got our own problems. I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca?
I honestly do not think that this was just a lone wolf. As I was stating with Eric earlier, that it's so easy to bring him in. He's a young guy. Hey, we're going to give you this job, and just groom him. And in that grooming, figure out, are we able to convert you and convince you and get you to buy into this? And like Eric had said, all along, they know that they're going to kill him.
I don't think that's an unplausible theory.
That's what I feel came out. Dress him like everybody else. Make it look like he's supposed to be there.
Unassuming, but he has just enough of a weirdness streak to him so that you can assign him to saying, hey, he's somebody who donated to this political affiliation, or he's a registered Republican, or he's this, or he's that. There's this already profile that's been, put out there. It's not unreasonable to suspect that could possibly happen. Why? No, our government would never do something like that, right?
They've been doing it forever.
Well,
I also don't think that they're going to. I don't think that they're going to stop. I don't think they're going to stop until Trump is absolutely stopped.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of people who have made that assertion, and I'm not saying that I disagree with you, because there's too much for them to hide. There's too much that they don't want out. And they fear him getting back in there. There's going to be a lot of things that possibly could be uncovered because it's going to be a second term. He's going to just like lay waste to some things. And I think that somebody should. I think that if he's not able to do that, that's probably our last best chance. Because we'll be entering a new age politically, where the people have lost faith in the institution. That's what holds this country together, is having people, go to the ballot box and they get their little sticker and they feel like, look what we did. Well, that works at a local level, or it works when there's nothing on the line. If it's a district they're not fighting for, it works because they let people have that. They let them think, you've got your school board in there. You've got this. We don't really care what you do in your town. That's cool. But when it's something really big, we want to sway the courts. We need the votes. We need all of these things. Why do you think they're letting people pour into this country by the millions? What's that all about? Do you think they do that because they like all these immigrants and they know that they're going to come here and do something meaningful for this country? No, of course not. There's something in it for them, in the form of like them retaining more power. It's all related to power.
Yeah, I've always thought that them coming in was going to help with the voting,
of course,
and sway it.
Of course. Nothing these people do is out of the goodness of their heart. It's all how they can advantage themselves politically and keep the people, the tax cattle, you and I, the people that are getting 60% of their shit taken from them without the ability to protest that.
Oh, no.
You can say
we care about the middle class, the working class. We want to take care of the working class.
Sure they do. But they're going to do that on the backs of the people that are actually making the money, right? And spread it around. Meanwhile, trying to demonize those that are, making too much. And I never understood that philosophy. I wish somebody would come on here and where we could have that debate. And we could talk about, why would you want to expand? Why would you not want to expand the pie instead of cutting the pie into smaller pieces? Why wouldn't you want to just bake more pies, right? So everybody gets a bigger piece of the pie. And, they throw around terms like trickle down economics, and this doesn't work and that doesn't work and it doesn't rise up the middle class. Well, it's not government's job to rise anybody up. How about that? This is America. It's your fucking job to get off your lazy ass and go out there and earn some money. Do something of value and merit. This is a meritocracy. And guess what? Guess what's going to happen? You're going to succeed. It really pisses me off anytime I hear somebody bringing in racial division and making the excuse because somebody's been oppressed or they have been disadvantaged. You know how many people are disadvantaged in life and just in general? There are people that are born without fucking arms. There are people that are born blind. There are people that are born with cleft palates. And you know what those people are? They're not complainers. They're some of the people that are the happiest that I've ever seen. There's some of the people that are the most inspirational people I've ever seen. They don't make excuses for the things that they don't have in life. And that's the problem that I see with liberals. They always want to attach somebody as being a victim. Oh, you're black. You're disadvantaged. You're from the inner cities. We need to do this for you. You know what you need to do is get the fuck out of the way and empower that person to be a better human being and take the shackles off and allow them to prosper. That's what you need to do if you want to lift people up.
So I equate that with the handicap. And I think it applies to basically the homeless and everything else, is that instead of, oh, poor them, look at them, we need to take care of them, we need to help them, you have to drop that, because the help they need is for you to encourage them to be the best person they can possibly be.
100%.
And that's what you have to look at.
Yeah, it's 100%. There's no room for, excuses in this country. You have every ability, you have every advantage. There, I'm telling you, man, everybody's born with different things. Some people have rich parents. Some people have a little bigger start, a better path in life to start with. Some people are, born into an impoverished, shitty lifestyle. They have terrible parents, but that's no excuse. There's people that succeed in that. And so it's up to the individual. That's what this country's all about, is individualism and striving to be your best based on, having the ability to own something, ownership, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to get to this question. Bags had this comment. It says, it's going to be harder and harder to cover tracks in a technological society. I think that's why AI generated images and deep faking is being pushed so damn hard. It creates doubt on everything. That's quite true. I see a lot of things and I just kind of almost automatically assume they're bullshit just because I'm thinking that can't be real. And I always have to do follow-up if it's something I'm interested in, because, I do think that's going to be a tool of theirs to be able to say, oh no, that's a deep fake, right? That's a this fake. You already saw them trying to do that with Biden, right? They were saying that a week before he fell apart in the debate, and people got to see what he really looks like. And so that's the narrative they're pushing. Oh, these are cheap fakes, whatever that means. That's ridiculous. I mean, he's a feeble old man that supposedly we were being led to believe that he was the most popular president ever, getting the most votes out of any candidate ever. I don't even know how that's possible, but yet we were told that happened. And when we questioned it, we were told, shut up. I had Spags on and we were talking about that. And I popped off and I said, you didn't win that shit. And guess what I got? I got that video summarily taken down. It doesn't exist on YouTube, but it does exist on the podcast channel because I have the audio for that. So that video does exist in that library. It's actually a fun interview that I had with Bobby. But we were just spitting some truth that night, saying things that were on our mind, speaking our mind, and trying to share some thoughts and provoke some and stimulate, thought, really. And that's the focus of tonight's broadcast, is just to say some things that are out there, because I know people are thinking this. I know people aren't just sitting on the sidelines and saying, oh, everything's fine. We're going to win this. Yeah, look at all the people flying Trump flags, or look at all the whatever, putting their hopes in one political party or the other. And I think to some extent, you kind of almost have to do that, because those are the choices that you're given. You're not really given that third option, right? Remember Bobby Kennedy, the guy that doesn't get Secret Service, but yet two of his closest relatives, his father and his uncle, were shot as political. And yet the guy who says we need to tone down the rhetoric, Joe Biden, Joseph R., old 46, has denied him Secret Service protection. That's interesting. Seems a little, I don't know. What does it seem like to you, Rebecca? Why would they do that?
Well, weren't they trying to limit Trump's protection as well?
I don't know that to be the case. I've heard some people maybe talking about that a little bit. One thing that we do know is I heard this today, actually, and I don't know it to be true. It's just something I had heard, but I was listening to PBD and he had a guy on, and he's kind of an insider as far as from a security standpoint. I think he used to be part of the Secret Service or what have you, but he was just saying how grossly incompetent, they were. And clearly they were. This should have never happened because, again, they have one job, and that's to protect the president at all cost. And you saw when things went down, how disorganized and confused, and some of those people they looked very much out of place, particularly some of the women that were there that probably shouldn't have been there. And again, that's something else we can talk about is DEI. What is that shit all about, right? Weren't we just talking about a meritocracy? Weren't we just talking about you can do anything in this country if you can do the job and you earn the right to do that job, and you're not given something based on affirmative action or because we need to meet a quota? This dates long back in my history as far as women being allowed to be in the fire service. I have no problems with women being firefighters or have no problem with women being cops. But you shouldn't lower their standards so that those women can be there. What they did is they removed the standards in my department so that they could meet a quota, a hiring quota, because we needed X number of this or that. They did the same with blacks. And I think that's bullshit. I understand people should have an opportunity, right? But it should be based on merit. And I understand there's a good old boy club. So some people don't get the opportunity because they're not somebody's brother or their uncle and all that sort of thing. But again, you don't lower standards, or you don't say, I need X number of Indians in my tribe, so therefore go out and find me some Indians. There was a dude that was hired when I was, he turned out to be a good fireman. I like the guy. And he used to work at a hospital as an orderly, cleaning up, right? Mopping floors and, doing that sort of thing. And he got hit up on the street. He told me this. He got hit up on the street, walking down the street. Somebody handed him a flyer and said, hey, you want to come be a fireman? And he was like, say what? And so he's like, hell yeah, that's some pretty good pay. And so he wound up going to the academy and it failed. But yet they sent him again. Hey, we need this guy. And so they sent his ass again, right? No doubt they were passing up other people who were qualified. But they sent this guy again because, we've already invested something into him. So let's push this guy across the finish line. And they did. Again, he turned out to be a good fireman. I liked him. He was a good guy. He was a solid cat, good fireman. But I've also worked with a bunch of women who shouldn't have had a job, couldn't fucking throw a ladder. Because you know why? They're 5'2" and weigh like 102 pounds. It's not going to cut it, man. You're not going to see deputy sheriffs that are going to be able to do the job when they're 5'3" and 118 pounds, standing there with their gun belt and their body armor and looking like a tough chick. They're going to get tossed. And that's the problem with this whole DEI bullshit. Telling people that they should have a job because of their sex, because of their color, because of their country of origin, because of whatever. It's bullshit. And we got to see that on full display here 2 days ago when you had some incompetent people that weren't doing the job. And the interesting thing about what PBD said, when I was listening to him, he was questioning because he said, hey, take a look at Biden's team. Take a look at Biden's Secret Service detail. He said there's no women on it. But they're giving Trump the second string, right? They're filling it with all these, like people that are just kind of like, hey, you're Secret Service.
What'd they say? She was like 5'4", the one that was in front.
I don't know, but they weren't doing their job. They couldn't holster their gun.
Well, she's not even big enough to like protect his head or anything. She's right up in front.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, if you're even able to cover the dude, you got to take the bullet for the guy, man. That's your job. If you don't want the job, don't sign up for the job. Sometimes you got to take a bullet, man. That's what it's all about. And she didn't even like know how to holster her gun. She's like freaking out, like, what the hell? What are we doing? What are we doing? That's an embarrassment, man. It's an embarrassment for our country. This is how we protect our people. You think Putin's got people like that? You think Kim Jong-un's got clowns that don't know what the fuck's going on when things go down? No. Heads are going to roll, man. And you've seen a march, right? They got that marching down. You damn well better believe they got some Secret Service down. They know what they're doing. And we got clowns doing shit. So it's a little frustrating, man.
What were you watching with the female? She actually had a Biden sign. And when the shots rung out, she was on her phone.
I don't know.
She was in the audience. So she managed to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting thing, man. I think we need to be able to talk about these kind of things because they are they're just odd. How are we going to be as Americans expected to just accept what we're seeing unfold right between our eyes or in front of our eyes? How are we supposed to process that and just say, oh well, they made a mistake. Oh well, they just did the investigation. They just did the congressional committee, and this is what they found. How are we expected to fucking believe that when there's the Warren Commission? When there's all of that malfeasance and cover up, how are we expected to believe the result of what the internal investigation is going to unfold? Maybe we're just supposed to ignore it and move on and pay our 60% in taxes and be good tax cattle and go to the booth and get your sticker and not question election integrity or results. Because we're in control. This is how it is, right? The media will tell you how you need to think. I think the more people that fall in that category and are willing to absorb legacy media, when I see anything from legacy media, I just kind of automatically dismiss it. I look to other sources. And unfortunately, I tend to look towards sources that confirm my own biases. That's what we all do. If we see something we don't like that disagrees with what we already believe, we tend to dismiss it. That's bullshit. That's liberal media. And then we go to our sources. Oh yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's right.
I agree with Gaines.
We shouldn't be doing that. But they forced that upon us because they've been so disingenuous and they've been so deceitful. And we see it every day. We are the ones being attacked, but yet we are the ones, the American people, the deplorables that are the most peaceful, but yet we're told that we're not. I'm sure that there's people that would tell me that I'm some kind of,
you're a hate monger.
I'm a racist. I'm racist against blacks. Well, I mean, I don't know. Let me see if I can get caught up on some of these. I am shouting truth, man. I'm definitely shouting tonight.
So anyway, I said I agree with Gaines, where she said that they are just interested in control and power, which is so true. And
of course,
I mean, that's one of the hugest things. They're afraid they're going to lose. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you do the math and you realize that, we had 8 years of Obama and now 4 years of Joseph R. That's 12 years. And there's been 4 years of Trump. So let's just say the election doesn't swing to the red side this time, even though the winds are at everybody's back as far as from the right? Let's just say that there's another 4 years. Then you're going to be swaying the courts more than likely toward the liberal side. And I said this from the start. I said, if Trump does nothing else, I will feel good about having voted for him, knowing that he was able to put 3 pretty sensible choices on the Supreme Court. I'm not looking for a Supreme Court that is going to be political. I want a Supreme Court that is going to defend the rights and interpret the Constitution as it was supposed to have been interpreted. That's what I want. That's what everybody wants, I think, unless you're a far left radical who want to see babies torn from the womb up until birth, who want to see guns taken away from people because they bought into this narrative that somehow guns are the problem. No, mental fucking illness is the problem. We have a lot of mentally ill people in this country.
Yet they're letting them out. And so they're on the street.
Well, they're letting them out, but they're grooming them. Listen to what's being spoken. I played this in the last week's episode of all of these politicians saying vile things about taking Trump out, about you getting in their face, about being disruptive. All of these things they have been saying. And it's very, very hard to walk that back when it's on the internet.
Right. But people need to continue to refresh their memory.
That's why
that side has said that. I mean, what did they say? It was a week ago that Biden said that Trump needs to be put in the bullseye.
Right. And I just saw, actually, I was flipping through TikTok before I came on here because, that's kind of my news source. That's pretty sad, right? It's pretty pathetic. I go to TikTok. That's my choice. And again, that's why it's probably under siege from the establishment, because you can go there and you can get somewhat unvarnished truth. Call it what you will, but you can get information there. You can interpret it whether or not it's true or not for yourself. But yeah, I don't know, man. I went on there and Lester Holt was confronting Biden on that very issue, saying, you just said like a week ago that you wanted to put him in the crosshairs or in a bullseye. And then Biden's sitting there just, no, that's not what I meant. I mean, we need to focus on him. We need to focus on him. He actually said, Lester Holt said, you said Donald Trump was an existential threat to democracy. And again, when you're saying these sort of things, what is that going to do to somebody who's a mental patient or somebody who's easily led? Right? Why do you think all these gunmen, why do you think most of them are pretty insecure and pretty young? It's because that's who's most malleable. And guess who else knows who's malleable and knows who they're able to coerce and to know who to profile? They're experts at that. And I think you know who I'm talking about. It's a 3-letter agency. They're experts at that shit.
Right. Well, and they tell them they're going to be a hero, and
they're doing it for the cause. I don't know what they're telling them. I don't think any of us know what they're telling them. But understand, those people are masters at deception. They're masters at manipulation. They're masters at reading people. I guarantee you they're listening to this right now. Because I know that there's people from the government that listen to this channel. I know that. Don't ask me how I know that, but I know that. And so that's all I'll say about it. But that's okay, because I really don't have a whole lot to hide or to fear. I think that sunlight is the best disinfectant to a disease or an infection. And I think we are infected within this country. And a lot of people are not willing to talk about it or willing to actually admit it or confront it. We're just going to go along with our happy lives thinking that, oh, business as usual. COVID's over. We're back to normal. We're going to, barbecue on the weekends and things are cool. And Trump didn't get shot. I'm already seeing jokes and shit, right? On TikTok. That's how sick people are. And where my mind goes on that is I'm actually giving people the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving some people the benefit of the doubt. I'm thinking, you know what? This is probably somebody who's probably from the deep state that's putting this shit out there just to provide that level of friction. I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt that you wouldn't be that fucking sick to where you would say, hey, the guy almost lost his life by a millimeter. And people are saying, oh, a little to the left, and making joke of that and making light of that. I wouldn't do that. I don't give a fuck if it's Obama. I don't care if it's Biden. I don't like either one of those guys at all. I think they have done this country a great disservice for their service. Because what they've done is they've taken more rights from me and more rights from my grandchildren and my children. They've weakened this country by their actions. And I know that they know what they're doing. So in that, I think that it's evil. But I wouldn't want to see those people shot. I wouldn't say that. So that's just something that's actually kind of a sick, demented either person that's doing that, or it's purely being done for that friction which they want to create in this country. They don't want people to unite. They don't want people to actually sit down across from each other at the dinner table and have conversations that might stir and resolve some issues. They would rather just have those issues out there so that people can fight with each other. Division is a very important business in politics. Understand that. You're either on team blue or you're on team red, or you become agnostic and you say, oh, I don't want to deal with any of it, which I've been there. I know what that feels like. Is that the right path to take? It's only right for the person who's choosing that path. I can't speak to that. But I know for myself, I feel as though it's my obligation for what's been done to Trump. Seriously. That dude, man.
He's got a lot of fight.
Oh man, he's been through some shit. I mean, just think about it. All the shit they've done at this guy since he, not since he was elected, but since he was removed from office. I don't mean that he lost. I mean that he was removed from office in the last 3.5 years. All the things that they've thrown at him. He's now a convicted felon with 43 counts, right? Bullshit charges. Somebody just tried to kill him like 3 days ago.
Several times.
I don't know, man. I just hope that dude starts to realize he needs to take his shit a little bit more seriously and realize who he's fucking dealing with. I know that Trump this is my sense. He's a people person. He's like a pleaser. He wants to please everybody, right? He wants people to love him. He's a narcissist. He has his flaws, right? As do we all, right? We all have our flaws. But when it all comes down to it, people like that guy because he's approachable. He's a rich ass dude who doesn't carry himself like a rich ass dude, and he understands the plight of the average person. That's why he's so hated. That's why they can't allow him to be back in that position. Not only just in this country, but globally. He is fucking hated because of the global agenda that they're trying to push with all these, project this or whatever. We're going to do all these carbon credit fucking things by 2045 and all this stuff that's being pushed by the left. Not really because they give a shit about the environment. It's all about a money grab and a power grab and a way for them to line pockets of their side and take more from the people. Pretty soon you're going to be driving cars that they'll be able to shut off. It won't be able to go past a certain miles per hour because, for safety reasons, for climate change, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all a bunch of malarkey. But see, people have bought into it. It's like a religion for a lot of people. And see, I can see through it because they talk about climate change. Oh, all these fires that are happening in California, it's so devastating. It's because of climate change. That was the narrative. Even so much as to say that the agency, my agency, the directors were getting up there and parroting that as a message. It was part of right in our, stated mission now with climate change, which it's all a bunch of bullshit. You know why? Because why fires burn? Because they burn that way for millions of years. And then man came along and man decided, hey, I'm going to take all these areas that used to be wilderness, like San Francisco, like like Los Angeles, these concrete jungles now, that used to be wilderness and it used to burn. And now it no longer burns. Not only that, we've built homes up into the wildland. So it's called the urban interface. We've got all these homes now that line places that used to burn for millions of years. But we came along 250 or so years ago with mechanized equipment and the internal combustion engine. And therefore we thought, hey, we can fix this. We're going to put these fires out. We're going to extinguish them. And so consequently, what we've done is we've started putting fires out in places where they actually should burn. That's called nature. It's part of the natural ecological cycle, which we as man have disrupted because we know better. I did that for fucking 30 years. Yeah. And it put food on my table. And I fought fires and I did the thing. But what they never told us is that, you know what, in doing that, you're just delaying the obvious. You're just delaying the inevitable. And so when shit lines up, like you've got a 70-mile-an-hour wind and the humidities are in single digit and you have a start, it's going to burn from north to south.
And it comes with vengeance.
And everything in its way is going to get cooked. That's how it's supposed to happen, guys. But yet I hear people say, it's climate change. No, the fuck it isn't. You're a fool. The climate has been changing for a millennial. For the beginning of time, it's ebbed and flowed. That's how nature works. But nobody's smart enough to really figure that out on their own. You have to leave it to some dude like myself to just give it a little bit of thought and go, oh, yeah, it's the way it's supposed to be. But no, people have bought in, oh, I got to go out and get a fucking Prius because I'm going to actually save the environment. Meanwhile, they don't realize the batteries that are being put into those cars. Where's that shit go when it's done? Is that helping the environment? What has to happen in mining the resources in order to make those batteries? Is that part of saving the environment? But people are kind of not really thinking it through.
They don't want you to think about that.
No, they don't. Let's see here. I'm way behind on anything here, guys, because I'm kind of on one tonight. If you haven't noticed. Fired up.
I'm just letting him go.
I'm just fired up.
Good. It's good for you.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, geez. Well, what do you want to say, Rebecca? Because I've done enough talking.
Well, I hope the best for him, but I honestly, I don't think that they're going to give up. I think that they're going to just continue to push and push and push. And I have to agree. I really hope that he amps his security and is able to protect himself. I would love to see him get back in because I know that he would make a lot of changes.
Yeah, well, they would be changes in a positive way for a lot of people. Now other people might see it a different way. But when you start getting more money in your pocketbook and taxes come down and gas isn't super expensive and the average American family can afford to do some things like maybe take their kids on vacation, now and then, instead of just making sure that they got food on the table or working multiple jobs, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what people have to do in order to make ends meet. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that that's a part of what a lot of people have had to do in this country in order to get ahead. It's what has to happen. But if it's being made harder, if your life is being made harder by the policies, then we would hope that, a reversal of what's been going on would certainly make people's lives better. Yep, I agree, Spags, gray market, man. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's really important that people just continue to not let their foot off the gas, because there tends to have and be a moment of almost complacency that I think can creep in, because you start getting into that, hey, things are just kind of lulling along here and, it's just whatever. And you can't consume yourself with, how fucked up things are, but really they haven't improved much since COVID. They're in fact a lot worse when you look at things. And so I think it's really important that people just continue to not let their foot off the gas, look for other ways to shore themselves up, both financially and, in other ways, and just work on making yourself better every day. That's what we've continued to try to do on this channel. And we're going to continue to keep doing that. I feel good where we are right now. But again, if things were to jump off and this country were to fall apart, I don't think any of us are prepared for that. I don't think any of us are ready for when the states say, hey, fuck this, we're doing our own thing. And there's violence everywhere. Because you think that George Floyd thing for 3 months was a thing? No, man. That was only one side fighting. That was only one side tearing shit up. Wait till this entire country starts fighting. And I don't know if that last event with Trump, if that would have kicked something off, but I can tell you this, that people are not happy in this country right now because of all the things that they've seen. A lot of people have opened their eyes since 2020, I being one of them. And so we'll just kind of have to see how things, play out. But again, I definitely agree with you, man. Working on different ways to shore yourself up. I agree, Skades. It's a tough thing, man. I mean, it's something that we all have to try to acknowledge, that if we are completely dependent upon the system, we're completely dependent. You're not autonomous in any way. So whether that means growing more of your own food, raising more of, the things that are going to keep you safe, getting off of the system as much as possible, but it's entirely impossible for us to do that. We're all tied to the system. There's this one dude I've seen on the internet. I think his name's Titus or whatever. I think he's like an ex-Amish. He's pretty cool, man. He fucking lives on this. He walks around with these hiked up like pants, no shoes, and he's like Amish beard and little bowl cut Amish dude, right? And he's totally like detached from the system. The only thing I think he has is a cell phone or something. Or no, he has like a landline. He's got a landline out in his shitter outside or whatever. But he lives like in this barn in this hayloft, and he just lives out there with his dog, and he shoes horses. And he doesn't have a fucking social security number. He didn't have none of that. So he's completely like outside of the system. He's just living on this piece of property, I guess, that he somehow owns. And you look at that and you go, this guy's pretty happy, man. He's completely like doing his own thing. And that's going to work until it doesn't work for him, but he's able to enjoy life right now. It is worth noting that he hasn't found a woman yet that has been willing to come along with. He was saying, yeah, it would be kind of nice to have like a, girlfriend or something, but yeah, he's pretty cool, man. Titus or whatever.
That's a tough sell. Man,
for some chicks, it would be like, they'd be into it. But like most people, including myself, I'd be like, yeah, I'm fucking doing that, man. Living no shoes on and sleeping up in a hay barn, DEI. Ooh, that's kind of a good little acronym. DEI didn't earn it. Agreed, Tulip Angel. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one. Let's see. What's up, Phoenix Tide, man? I've seen you in the chat tonight. How are you doing, man? Let's see. Sun causes climate change. Ask people when the people on Earth cause the most pollution above any other time. They usually say 50s to 70s. During that time, the Earth was cooling. Yeah, I think, the historical records have shown that there has been that warming and cooling of, the system. It oscillates. And it's just the way things are. But, they used to say, oh, it's going to be an ice age, right? And then they realized, oh, fuck, this is not working out. We got to call it something different because it's actually warming up. And so we're in this period of warming or whatever. And then they decided to rename it climate change. That's one thing the left is really good at is words. They're good at changing the language and getting people to accept things that they know in their heart are kind of ridiculous, like this DEI thing. Like all of that stuff. Joe, what about that coin you had? Rebecca found this coin.
I was
go get it. Where's it at? Do you have it?
I do have it.
Yeah, go get that thing. We'll show it to him. But it was this coin that she found this morning, and I guess it was in a pile of change or whatever. And it's something I had never seen. And she showed it to me. I didn't have my glasses on, but I could see where on the back it said hope, right? And so I kind of squinted, like the first thing I thought, fuck, Obama, right? They're doing something with Obama. And that's what she told me she said as well. But
right.
Let me see that coin.
So truth be told, I was getting a coffee, and this is a change that I got back. And I have to say that at this place, I've gotten interesting coins. So I always look at.
Let's see if I can get that to focus. Fuck it. It's not going to focus. That's lame.
So I always look at one time I was getting quarterback, and it actually was Lyra or Lear. Did I say it wrong?
I don't know.
And
all right.
And I said, this isn't a quarter. And she said, well, here, let me. And I said, oh, no, I want it. And after looking it up and everything, it was basically worth $11. So I got more than.
So anyhow, tell them about this coin.
But anyway, so this coin, I get it. I look at the back, and like Eric said, it says hope. And I'm thinking the exact same thing as he. It has to be something with Obama. I didn't have glasses. I couldn't tell. But when I looked at it, it is all about the Reverend Dr. Polly Murray, which is a lady who she was born in 1910, died in 1985, and she had, I don't know if she's actually coined the phrase, but she was non-binary. And so, but it was back before transgender. And now she's on the back of our money.
Right. But you know what I got to say about that is there's a lot of people who have done a lot of cool things. I mean, you look at her history, and she read it to me, and I'm thinking, oh, this person's pretty accomplished. They've done a lot of cool things for civil rights. They've done a lot of cool things for this or that. And you know, they've got some accomplishments that are worthy of celebration. But you know what? There's also a lot of people who have accomplishments that are worthy of celebration, and they're not somebody, they're being put there. This person is being put there because of the fact that they're transgender. Because there's people who have far more accomplishments than this person, but yet they're not being recognized as going on money. And this is just another example, part and parcel of our government shoving shit down the throats of people that are not asking for this. I'm pretty sure most people aren't going to lose sleep over the fact that their money has some bullshit on the back of it, because it's just, money's kind of fake anyhow. It's just a means of transference of your energy. But there's people far more, I think, deserving to go on the back of this. But yet this person is being put on there because this is an issue that is being pushed on top of people and in front of people, challenging their values, challenging the normal of what is in every society, which is you were born either a man or you were born a woman, or in some cases you are, have both sexes. You might be a hermaphrodite or something like that, a little bit, outside of the ordinary, right? But the whole idea that you get to change who you are now is being forced upon society and being told to kids and said, hey, this is something that you should be able to choose for yourself. And there's parents that are buying into this bullshit for their kids. I guess that's their choice, but it's not something that the rest of us who disagree with this and it challenges our values should have to accept. And so again, that's why I'm saying what I'm saying tonight, because it's not worth just keeping things to yourself. It's not worth expressing how you actually feel, because if you do that, you are censoring yourself. You're doing their job for them. And that's something I'm a little bit not interested in doing.
So you have somebody that wants to know what the purpose of the headphones are. Stefan.
Yeah, the headphones actually, it allows us to hear each other, and there's less noise in the room. And so I think when the headphones are on, at least for myself, I have a tendency to not want to amplify my voice. I can just speak normally because I can hear how I sound in the microphone.
And I talk a lot softer. So he's able to raise my levels up to his.
Right. That was one of the things that I had listened back to some of our earlier broadcasts, and I realized that it was just too difficult having one microphone and we're both trying to talk in it. And I speak a little bit more forcefully. She's a little bit more muted, and kind of, it just sucked, man. I was thinking, man, how are people even listening to this bullshit? You can't even hear us. And so kind of upgraded some of the audio equipment, and along with that, decided to use headphones. It's not necessary, but it certainly helps when you're running it through an audio interface, and you've got multiple microphones. So
I think he looks like the pilot and I'm the co-pilot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. Oh, what's up, HRDs? How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, well, cool. I got a lot off my chest tonight, and I hope it didn't offend anybody. I hope people weren't put off by that. But if it did provoke some thought, and it did stimulate some maybe some conversation amongst people in the chat, if it got you to thinking about how we progress forward from here as a nation, as a society, as a world. It's really interesting. I'm not somebody who's, has this view of how things should be. I'm not idealistic as far as like, hey, we should all have world peace. But, why isn't it that people can't just fucking leave other people alone and just deal with themselves? Right? Why can't people just try not to get into other people's shit? And whether that's the government, our government, we're always getting in somebody's shit, right? Around the world, we've got all these different little chess pieces on the board we're trying to geopolitically manage, right? But we can't manage our own problems. Why can't people just not fuck with their neighbor and be respectful to one another? And I think the world would be a better place, man. It
definitely would. I mean, if the way I look at it is, if you're happy with yourself and you're doing everything that makes you happy, then why do you want to pester into somebody else's? Be happy with what you have and continue to improve yourself.
I think there's
but that's as far as it should go. You shouldn't be obsessed of your neighbor.
I think that there's a lot of people who are obsessed, though, because it's very easy to look at others and see what you don't have. And then you measure yourself based upon that, right? And I've said this before, but if everybody on your block had lived in a shittier house than you, everybody in your town lived in a shittier house, had less stuff, you'd feel a lot better about yourself just based on that fact. Nothing's changed. You're still in the same house, drive the same car, but everybody else is more fucked up than you. You're going to look around and go, man, I'm in pretty good shape. But when you do the inverse or the reverse of that, and you look around and you see other people have things that you maybe think, oh, I should have that, and you start to become envious of that. Some people don't want to work hard to get the things that they look at others having. They would rather steal those things, or they would rather make excuses as to why they can't get them. Or for whatever reason, people aren't motivated to just be comfortable with themselves. And it's kind of an interesting thing when you really start to dig in and think about people and how they behave and what motivates people to do what they do, right?
Or they do get them to to paint a picture as though they have more vehicles are one of the top things. I see people purchase cars that are probably very expensive for them to drive. They don't necessarily need to have it. However, it is painting a picture of possibly them being of more wealth.
Sure. There's just something to be said about having a car that's safe and, it's got all the safety amenities or whatever. Because, I mean, a car is going to be, usually speaking, the second most big expense that a person's going to encumber.
Right.
Is a vehicle.
But
so
you can drive a Ford. You don't have to drive a Maserati.
Sure. Yeah.
And that Ford can be completely safe. Is what I'm saying. But yet people will go out because that is going to make you look wealthier. Right.
Well, let's just say for argument's sake, if I was, let's say I was doing this podcast, right? This wacky ass, Porterhouse and Teal podcast, but my numbers looked like Joe Rogan's, and I had millions of people watching this live stream, and pretty soon I started getting a lot of money and notoriety and fame. And then next thing you know, I'm like a multi-millionaire. Do you think I'd still be driving the same shitty 95 Toyota Tacoma?
You might.
I probably would, because that's a damn good truck. It's the best motor that Toyota ever put out is that 22 RE. I'm telling you.
That poor thing is, well, let me just put it, that poor thing.
Yeah.
Yet he still has people come up and say,
oh yeah, I
really like that truck. I'd like to have the seats. I mean, the upholstery is coming off. The door handles are broken on it.
I had some meth fucking addict like last week. No, it was probably about half a week ago. I'm filling up at the gas station, and this dude comes up, right? He's on the other island across from me, and he's filling up 2 antifreeze cans, with gas. And I hear him talking to this guy that's on the same island as him. And he says, hey man, would you give me a ride to my truck or give me a ride to my car? I ran out of gas. And he's like, well, where's your car? And he goes, it's right over there at that Mexican restaurant. It's like 150 fucking yards away, right? The guy walked to get there. He could have easily walked back. And so the guy's asking him, can he get a ride back? All right. So the guy does it out of the goodness of his heart. I would have told him no. I'd have said, no, dude, I'm busy right now. I can't do it. Sorry. Now, if the guy had been out in the middle of nowhere, I would have reconsidered that. I wouldn't have said, nah, dude, you're on your own. It was 150 yards away. You walked your ass here. You can walk your ass back. And I'm not taking out of my day to have some fucking twitchy meth addict get in my truck and possibly stab me when I don't know you. Okay? So, but anyhow, the dude says, yeah, he's going to do it. And there's this old man, right? This old gray-haired dude. And I thought, oh, this guy could get fucked up if he's not careful, but I was watching him. I mean, he drove over 150 feet away. But before that, he says to me, hey man, that's a nice truck. You want to trade it for my car? And I just ignored him. I didn't, I heard him. And then I heard him mumble under his breath. I said, oh, that fucking guy can't even fucking hear me. And I looked up at him, and he's all, oh, hey man, I was just like, just playing around. I was just saying some stuff. And he says, do you want to, trade me your car, truck? And I said, no. And then I just went on about my business. But yeah, I have people asking me about that truck all the time. So
even the previous owner to that truck.
Yep. He approached me and he asked me about the truck. Hey man, you want to get that? He said, that used to be my truck. He said, I sold it to the guy that I bought it from. And I said, no way. And he said, well, yeah, I'll prove it to you. He says, go out on that truck and look right there underneath this part of the quarter panel. And he says, there's a dent that looks just like this on there. And I put that there when I was pissed off one night and I was banging stuff around in the garage, and it hit the truck and it left this dent in it. And it's been there ever since. He said the truck only had 1,500 miles on it. He was just brand new. But I bought the truck and I don't know, paid $4,500 for it. And it's been a great truck. But back to the story, I probably would buy myself a new truck if I had Joe Rogan money.
Maybe, but you'd still keep that Toyota.
I would. I'd probably give it to my grandkid or something, It's a good truck, man.
It does need new doorknobs, though.
Yeah. What do we got here? Skate says, I don't know. I got out of nursing school and continued to drive my old Bondo baby Subaru until it literally stopped working. Yeah, Subarus are a fantastic car, man. Good resale value, just as Toyotas do, and a good safety record, and people love them. So I totally get that for sure. But anyhow, I think we've been kind of rambling on here. Let me take that back. I've been rambling on here for a long time. And I think that it's probably about time we wrap things up for this evening. We still got to go get some food into us, right? We haven't had dinner.
We haven't. And the chickens might want to be put up now. I don't know. We've been waiting later and later because it's so warm, and we figured that it's nicer that they have more room to move around.
Yeah, we haven't talked any homesteading stuff tonight. It's just been all political bullshit, right? Just a bunch of rambling.
We can tell them we lost a chicken.
Oh, we did. We had a chicken that died. We came back from Oregon, and no fault of the person that was taking care of it. They had food, they had water. It wasn't like they ran out of anything. But I came and opened the door, and the chicken was damn near dead. It was sitting there kind of breathing labored, and it was looking very cyanotic, kind of blue-ish.
Should have given it CPR.
No, I didn't do that. I put it outside and I wet it down just to kind of make it a little bit more comfortable while it continued to die. But yeah, she died. And sometimes that happens, man. It's weird. You don't know what they could have gotten an illness. They could have, it could have been a prolonged exposure to the heat that we've had. It could very well have been that. But those chickens are, generally speaking, the Novagens are pretty hardy. They don't give us a lot of problems with that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that happens.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that was one of the other is the pool slide is actually up and going. The grandkids are going to be excited about that.
Yeah, I worked on that today. Yeah, I got the railings put on and the water's hooked up. So we're good to go, man. Pool's open. She's been doing a lot of canning. In fact, did you get that canning off the stove? She was doing some.
I did. I got some more tomatoes done and some more pickles.
Yep. And then there's more. It's like when you leave for 2 days at this time of year, of course, you guys probably know if you have a garden, then, you got to be harvesting every 2 days to pull cucumbers and, other produce, squash and tomatoes and all of that sort of thing. And she's been working a little bit every day, trying to can a little bit more of that. To do what? To get us prepared for the future.
Yes.
For this winter, so that we'll have food put back in our pantry and we'll be a little bit more self-reliant, because that is super important, particularly in these tumultuous times here in the United States and completely around the world, right?
I have to say that when I go to make dinner, there's something that I am like really shy of. And I'm so stoked that I actually have a backup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think what we're probably going to do too, I've got a lot of peppers out there that need to come off and we don't have any use for them at this point. We'll probably pull them in and see if we can just freeze dry them so that we've got, peppers for later on. Super important to take advantage of all of the harvest so that you don't lose anything. Another thing that I actually worked on today, and it's something I thought I'd mention to people, if you guys have, hang on a sec. What is that?
Somebody's buzzing.
Yes, it's a phone somewhere, but whatever. Is doing some summer pruning. So if you have fruit trees, now is probably a good time, depending on your zone and where you're at, to do summer pruning. And essentially what you're doing when you're doing that is you're really just kind of bringing it back down to a manageable height, taking all the vigor out of that fruit tree so that you can come back later in the year and you can actually do some more finite, detailed pruning in the dormant period. That's when you're going to come through and you're going to take care of any of the crossing branches, any of the dead branches, making sure that your scaffold is open well enough so that you're going to get good sunlight. You're going to get good ventilation for the fruiting wood that you're going to leave back. But right now, again, with your fruit trees putting in all that vertical growth, it's a good time now to come through and take care of that. Because obviously you probably don't want to be getting up on a ladder to harvest your fruit. And if you're not keeping those trees managed in an appropriate way, bringing them down. So when I do my summer pruning, I basically just whatever I can reach fully extended, I'll just take off at that level. And then I worry about later, again, coming back in the dormant period and doing the fine detail pruning of what I want to leave back for the fruiting wood for next year. One thing I will mention on that, though, is that you're getting to the point, if you have citrus, that you're probably not going to want to do it much beyond where we are right now, at least in my zone, because what's going to happen is, your citrus is very susceptible to frost. And so if you prune it too late, you're going to get new growth that tree is going to push out, and it's not going to have time to harden off before winter, and you're going to wind up losing all of that foliage. So you kind of want to do that. I typically do it late spring, first part of summer, is I'll come through and I'll kind of bring off some of the the foliage and the branches and kind of shape it how I want to shape it at that point. And then I don't do really much pruning after that, because again, you're going to want all that new growth. I've got a lot of new growth pushing out on my citrus right now, and you want that fully hardened before, you start getting into the cold part of the year. But it's just something I thought I'd mention with regard to, pruning on your orchard.
And you got your first, what was it, 4 or 5 peaches?
I've got a few. I've actually had more than that. We on the new trees that we put in this year, I knocked off most of the fruit, and I kept a few back just because I wanted to see what they taste like or whatever. But typically for the first couple of years, you don't really want a lot of fruit set on your trees, just so that the trees can get established a little bit better. Because what'll happen when they start setting fruit on your branches that aren't really well established, that additional weight can cause branches to break, which you don't want. And you really want your the development on those trees to be going into the actual structure of the tree, the root system and the branches and the trunk and all of that. You want that to be where the energy goes rather than into fruit production. So typically for the first couple of years, some people go beyond that. Some people will go for the first 3 years. They'll pretty much knock all fruit off. But I did keep a few back and had a few just to taste. And so that was kind of nice. But
you even had them with your breakfast this morning.
Yeah, I'm going to probably be doing some kind of a video for this weekend. I haven't done anything yet. I've been a little bit more preoccupied doing other things, both with athletics and just been working around here and haven't been filming any content. But I'll probably be doing something around fruit tree gilding, I think, this weekend, and maybe put something like that out. So if you guys are interested in seeing what I'm doing around here and the value of fruit tree guilds and how they're going to benefit you, you might want to check it out. But that's probably what's going to be next on the dock.
So I'm going to agree with Skeins. I believe that she probably had heat stroke as well. Ours, even though there's plenty of nesting boxes for them, they like to cram themselves in one box. And so there'll be like 2 or 3 chickens all in there packed in. And so if they were piled on top of her on the day that was 117, very easily.
Yeah, it could be that. But I've seen that look before, where they turn cyanotic, and that they're just not moving enough oxygen. They're just not oxygenating their blood good enough, and they're starting to turn blue. And so, it wasn't long after that she passed, but it happens. Let's see here. Skane says, I'm going to be doing some air grafting with some of my trees, hoping I can take a little bit of home with me. Huh. So it sounds like you're leaving somewhere. You're moving, huh? Yeah. Definitely try to take some of those genetics with you. That's a really cool thing to do. Trees are pretty cool thing that you can do on your property. I really like planting trees. Is something I've always kind of done here. I didn't really plant a ton of fruit trees when we first moved in. And one of the reasons why is just because I didn't want to have things that I had to manage as much. I saw what my dad had to do on his piece of property and how committed he was to that piece of property, and didn't get to travel and go in to do things in his retirement. He was very much married to his property. And I didn't want to go down that road, at least initially. I planted some other types of trees But consequently now I'm married to my property, seemingly. We are here because of the commitments that we have being homesteaders, right? You have livestock, you have, the investment into the things that you've planted. And of course, we're in the middle of harvest season, so it's very difficult to get away for much longer than, a couple of days at a time. So yeah, that's
She's
cool.
Moving to Kansas.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, right on. Good crew out in Kansas. Those people take care of you out there.
So back to Crooked Little Homestead. She said you're not old and that she keeps going like the Energizer Bunny. And I want to say, trust me, he is like the Energizer Bunny on speed.
Yeah. You gotta be, man. I mean, some people are more sedentary, but I'm not really that person. And, I find that there's so much in life that you have the ability to do if you just choose to do it. And so I'm always interested in trying new things. I'm always interested in, learning new things. I'm always interested in engaging in things that are challenging me. Obviously they have to be things that I'm interested in, right? There's plenty of shit that I don't know, but it's because I don't have an interest in knowing it. I haven't pursued that. But certain things I take an interest in, and then I kind of go down that road, that rabbit hole. And I think that's an important thing to do to keep yourself occupied, right? People always ask me, "Oh, what are you going to do when you retire?" I said, anything I fucking want to do, because I'm retired and I got plenty of things to keep me busy. I don't have any desire to go back to work and become a retired annuitant. And so many people do, because they retire and they realize, I put so much into this career of mine. I put so much into my whole identity as being a fireman or a policeman or a whateverman. And then when they find themselves home alone, looking at the dog, reading the paper, drinking their coffee, they get bored because they don't have any other interests. I have a lot of interests, and I think that's important. We only have this much time on the planet, and so you need to make the most of it. And so
I would say that we're up and moving fairly early in the morning, and we kind of don't sit down until dinner time.
That's good. That's good, man. I mean, I don't know. It's nice to relax. We kind of did that this week up in Oregon, at least for one day. The other day I was running, but
well, I kind of was too.
Kind of. Let's see here. You're going to Kansas. That's cool, man. I like that. Probably out close to the Midwest preparedness crew somewhere, I imagine. So that's cool, man. It's good to be a part of a tribe and a crew and people that are like-minded. So hopefully that works out good. And you need to stay in touch, because I know that you're going to be a little bit closer now that you're in Kansas than way down there in Louisiana. So yeah, appreciate everybody stopping in tonight for sure. And Tulip Angel, summer fruit tree pruning. Yes, that is a thing. And I've been doing a little bit of that at a time, and it's going to help you much later on in the year when you don't have all those extra branches, and you're going to be able to mostly harvest your fruit from the ground. You're not going to have to get on a ladder and hurt yourself. Because when you get old like me, you fall down and things break.
You haven't broke anything yet.
No, I haven't. It says, I am not either. I am back in school coming out of retirement. Hard for me to sit here and do online classes. Yeah, I will have so much to do starting from scratch when I leave. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably scary for a lot of people, but it can also be super exciting, a new chapter, a new, venture. I think I would look at that as a new opportunity. And, I recently had this guy up the road who was getting booted out of his house. He was having problems with his living arrangement, and he had to get out of his house. And he was obviously and understandably distraught about that. And I stopped by to talk to him on a couple of occasions just to, show him some support and give him some kind of a sounding board. And that's what I was trying to express to him, man, is like, you know what, man, you can't sit there and look at what could have been, because it's not that way. You have to take whatever is being presented to you now and look at that as an opportunity to find yourself, enthusiastic about the chances and choices that you have to make moving forward. I mean, that's the only way you can look at shit, right? Because it's so easy to get mired in this, like, oh, poor me. And I don't, but yeah, you have to look at everything like a new challenge. So that's cool. But anyhow,
you have to
go ahead.
Pick up and move forward. It's really the healthiest thing for you to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, thanks guys for joining us tonight. Again, nothing was planned. It was just kind of off the cuff. And yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I would like to go out there and hang out with the Midwest Preparedness Project crowd. They're a good bunch of people, and I've met a few of them. And I know you guys got a good thing going out there in the Midwest. And it's kind of a model for a lot of people that are looking to, establish a community of people who are like-minded. And that's important, again, especially in these times where, it's a little bit tenuous, a little bit tumultuous, but a little bit kind of riding that just muttering along, right? And we're going to all be waiting to see what happens here come November, or maybe even before. So again, thanks again, guys. We're going to leave you with that. And hopefully we'll be back next week to have something to chat about meaningful. And feel free to join in with anything that you would like to talk about. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Have a great evening. Realize
that homesteading is not harmful content. This, however, may be considered harmful content. So I don't know if this broadcast will remain online, but I'm going to download it as soon as I get off of here and put it on the podcast site. You can go listen to those audio versions at porterhouseandteal.com, at Spotify. I think it's on iHeartRadio, and Google's going away, and Audible. So again, let's see, one more comment here. Skane says, it is exciting and sad. I'm leaving my childhood home. This isn't where God wants me to be. That is exactly where I am. Can't look back. Got to move forward. Right on. Yeah, that's the only way to look forward to it. That's the only way to approach life. And I definitely echo that sentiment. And I wish you the best. So I got a chance to meet Cindy. We hung out for a minute out in Kentucky. And she was in the class that I put on there, the Fruit Tree Guild class. And so it's always cool when you get a chance to meet people in person, and you get a little bit more of an understanding of who somebody is when you get a chance to, spend a little bit of time. Too bad we didn't break bread, but maybe next time we'll do that. And yeah, man, thanks, William Zegley. God bless you too, man, from California here. So night, y'all.
That's right. Good night.